Twilight was doing her best to understand what the 3 pictures before her meant. Each picture was an assorted mess of colour and shapes. At times, she thought she could have been able to make out the vague shape of a pony or some other shape that she could identify as an object. But it quickly moved back to being an assorted blob. "I can't make heads or tails of this," Twilight said, groaning as she looked back and forth. "How exactly does the spell work? This is my 2nd time doing it and I'm still confused." The book didn't explain any further than how to perform the spell and its purpose. Was it supposed to be easy to figure out? Should something have been obvious to her? There were no instructions on how to interpret the pictures or what she could do to help. It really seemed like she was purposely being kept out, as if she wasn't allowed to see what each of her friends were experiencing. "If I had something to write with, I could maybe take better notes, but I have nothing to compare this to. I only had the other 2 pictures. Ugh, I can't learn like this." Twilight groaned, sitting down as she stared a little frustrated at the pictures. She wanted nothing more than to figure this out and learn so she could help her friends better, but without a frame of reference, it seemed pointless. Just as she was getting frustrated, each of the pictures began to radiate with a bright light. Twilight tried to look at the development, but the light became too much for her to bear. She just covered her eyes, just as she felt the familiar tug of the spell ending. She was dragged backwards out of the spiraling darkness that carried the 3 paintings before her, finding herself being thrust back to reality. "Ugh," Twilight groaned as she rubbed her forehead. It was an unsettling feeling to be pulled out like that. "Every pony okay?" she asked, opening her eyes to look at her 3 friends. "Yay! It worked! We're back!" Pinkie said excitedly, jumping up, smiling happily as she looked around. "Haha! Take that, you creepy world, you!" Rainbow Dash grinned. "That was really eye-opening." Fluttershy smiled softly, putting her hoof to her chin in thought. "So the spell worked? You were able to figure out why you're having those nightmares, Fluttershy?" Twilight asked, looking curiously at her friend. Fluttershy felt herself become the centre of attention as every mare looked at her in anticipation. She blushed softly. Yes, I found out the reason," Fluttershy admitted slowly. "Well, don't leave us in suspense. What is it?" Rainbow asked, eager to find out. "Whoa, hold on, Dashy," Pinkie said, slipping closer. "If it's anything like me finding out that I lost my sister, we shouldn't force her to say if she isn't ready. Though I admit, I am really curious to what it is. It's probably something hug-worthy." "Oh, Fluttershy rubbed her leg awkwardly with her hoof. Fluttershy stumbled in thought. "I'll tell you what. There's something I need to do, something I need to take care of. Then I'll tell you all. I hope." She said the last part quietly. "And that's completely understandable," Pinkie said, embracing Fluttershy into a big hug. "Just know that whatever it is, we're always here for you." "Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to sound pushy. Tell us when you're ready," Rainbow smiled supportively. "Thank you, all of you," Fluttershy said, smiling, with tears at the edge of her eyes. "I don't know what I'd do without you girls." She embraced Pinkie Pie back. "Well, I'm glad I could help," Twilight smiled. "Yeah, about that," Pinkie said, letting go of Fluttershy and looking at the other 2. I think we're in that agreement here, Pinkie Pie," Rainbow said, nodding at Pinkie. "Yes, I think we are," Fluttershy nodded as well. "Twilight?" Pinkie started. "Huh?" Twilight asked, confused. The 3 men looked at before her, and they each took a deep breath before, in one big cry, they aimlessly shouted, "Don't ever use that spell again!" "So why are we flying to Cloudsdale?" Rainbow Dash asked, curiously looking at Fluttershy, as the 2 of them were flying towards the big city of clouds. "Well, I guess I can tell you," Fluttershy said before letting out a soft sigh and smiling. "I'm going to see my father." "Your father?" Rainbow asked curiously. "I don't think I've ever met him. Heck, you haven't even told me much about your family. You've always avoided the subject when I've asked." "That makes sense." "Does that have something to do with your freaky nightmare version of Ponyville?" Rainbow asked, hesitantly, the gaze turning in her head as she thought. "It does," Fluttershy said softly, trying not to alarm Dash. She wasn't ready to say too much about what she saw, not until she had at least confronted her father. Rainbow looked at Fluttershy as they flew quietly, waiting for her to say more, though she realised it wasn't coming. Then Rainbow let out a soft sigh. You are going to explain things, right? Pinkie didn't explain anything more than she lost her sister to some serial killer. She didn't mention the monsters in town. I really want to know what happened to you, Fluttershy. After you got separated from us, I was so worried, Rainbow said, still feeling guilty about having yelled at Pinkie Pie. I promise, Dash, I'll tell you everything. Fluttershy looked down sadly. Just promise me you won't think I'm a monster. Rainbow looked shocked, as if she was almost offended at the idea. How could I ever think that? You're the nicest, kindest, most gentle pony in all of Ponyville. Heck, maybe in all of Equestria. How could I think you're a monster? Rainbow shook her head, confused. Thank you, Dash. Fluttershy held back a tear from spilling. We're almost there, Fluttershy said as they were now flying close to the Cloud City. Cloudsdale was busy with normal bugs of Pegasi ponies all around. Some were working on new construction, some were delivering packages, and others were simply out enjoying the nice weather, while others seemed to be in a hurry. It was a normal day for Cloudsdale. Fluttershy looked at the schoolhouse in the distance as they flew past it. She could hear the familiar bell ringing as the schoolhouse suddenly poured out with excited young souls that were eager to be out of school for the day and go off and play. It brought a smile to Fluttershy's face, and seeing all the happy faces of youth seemed to lift their spirits. Here it is, the place my father works, in Cloudsdale General Hospital, Fluttershy said after a few more minutes of flying, pointing to the large white building with the large red cross on it. It had several Pegasi flying in and out of the building, some healthy, some sick, some with bandages on their limbs. And there was an emergency vehicle that sat parked next to it that would be pulled by a team of Pegasi should an emergency call be made. Is your father a doctor? Rainbow Dash asked as they sat down just outside their front doors before walking inside. You could say that, Fluttershy said, smiling softly. The lobby was large, very large. There was a huge open space above their heads for Pegasi to fly around. A large fountain in the middle that seemed to have a few bits floating at its depth. A receptionist's desk that had lots of ponies checking in, a waiting area for ponies to fill out paperwork and wait for them to head where they were needed. And a most noticeable part of the room was a very large picture of the receptionist's desk with a light amber pony with a dark red mane in a white lab coat with imposing blue eyes. Underneath the picture was a plaque that was very difficult to read from afar. Well, that's a large photo, Rainbow said, chuckling at the size of it. They must really like that doctor. Well, he has saved hundreds of ponies' lives. He's the best doctor in the whole hospital. Fluttershy stopped where she was walking, making Dash stop and look back at her curiously. His name's Lance Strongshy, and he's my father. Rainbow's mouth hung agape before looking quickly at the large picture, then back at Fluttershy, doing this several times in disbelief. You mean your father is the Lance Strongshy? Oh my gosh, he's like the most famous doctor in all of Cloudsdale. Even I've heard of him. It was that said that the terrible lightning storm broke loose at the weather center and injured at least 30 ponies, and Lance was able to save all of them. All the other doctors couldn't have saved them. Yeah, I'm familiar with that day, Fluttershy said, nodding slowly. All of her memories from her childhood had returned now. She could remember almost everything about it. He's one of the best doctors. I've heard he got even better when he poured his passion into studying medicine after his wife died of a disease. Rainbow stopped in her tracks as realization hit her like a ton of bricks. She was speaking about Fluttershy's mum. Oh, Fluttershy, I had no idea. Rainbow started to apologize. It's okay, Dash. Fluttershy said with a sad smile as she walked past Dash, heading for the counter. There's a lot I have to tell you. You'll understand soon. Hello, welcome to Cloudsdale General. How can I help? The nurse behind the desk began to say, having been nose deep in paperwork before looking up to shook, seeing Fluttershy standing there. Hello, Nurse Softcure. Covering for the receptionist today? Fluttershy offered a genuine smile as she she couldn't stop looking at the white-coated Pegasus with a blonde mane. After all, it was the first time she'd seen her personal forehead nurse since the last visited hospital so many years ago. Nurse Softcore narrowed her eyes immediately, giving Fluttershy a rather nasty glare. "What are you doing here?" the nurse almost hissed. Rainbow Dash raised an eyebrow at the nurse's behaviour. This seemed very rude, considering that she was talking to the daughter of the best doctor in the hospital. "I've come to see my father today, if he's not busy, that is," Fluttershy explained simply. The nurse's hooves banged hard against the desk. Almost every pony turned their heads to look at this, not having expected a loud bang in the middle of the hospital. Nurse Softcore looked around quickly before offering a weak smile and a soft laugh, as if it had been an accident. The other Pegasi just seemed to shrug before continuing with their own duties. Once she was sure no pony was paying full attention to them, she went back to glaring at Fluttershy. "So what? After all these years, you just come waltzing in here, not only to expect an audience, but expecting me to believe that that's all you're here for?" Softcore was trying not to yell, but her voice came out in a harsh tone. "Hey, who do you think you're talking to?" Rainbow Dash said, feeling her thirst up to stand on end. They were stopped by a hoof put by Fluttershy. "I swear to you, Miss Q, I'm only here to talk with my father." Fluttershy smiled in the face of the hate that was coming from the nurse. "Oh yeah, I believe that," Softcore growled. "You're just here to smear Les's good name, aren't you? Trying to interfere with his life-saving work because of some bitter vengeance you want." Again, Rainbow Dash went to speak up, but was stopped by Fluttershy. "You could accompany me if you want. I really want nothing more than a chance to talk to my father. I won't say a word to any pony else, I promise," Fluttershy explained calmly. Nurse Softcore just glared at Fluttershy, but seemed to be thinking about the situation over in her head. Her eyes wandered over to Rainbow Dash, who seemed to be giving her glaring daggers back. It took a while, but the nurse finally responded. "Fine, I'll escort you to his office." The nurse got up from her sitting position behind the desk before spreading her wings. She began to fly down one of the hallways towards the airpaths of the upper levels. "Yeesh, what's her problem?" Dash growled as the two of them followed the nurse. "It's a long story. I'll tell you later." Fluttershy smiled softly. Rainbow Dash didn't seem pleased, but listened to Fluttershy as they flew. The nurse directed them up several stories before stopping at the ninth. She flew down a long hallway that barely had a soul in it, and only passed a single other Pegasi as they drew closer. "Here, his office." Softcore stepped outside one of the doors, turning to face the two mares. "I'll let him know you're here, just to see him," she explained before turning around to knock at the door. "Come in," a gruff voice came. Nurse Softcore opened up the door and walked in before closing the door behind her. "I don't like the feeling of this, Fluttershy," Rainbow whispered with displeasure of the situation. "Something doesn't feel right." "I understand, Dash. I promise. This will all be over soon. Just let me talk to my father in private for now, please. If I need you, you'll know." Fluttershy said, nuzzling against Rainbow Dash for support. "I'd rather go in there with you, but if you say so," Rainbow said, softly nuzzling her back. The door opened once more, a Softcore coming out. "He'll see you now," he said, standing next to the door, glaring at the two of them. "Thank you," Fluttershy smiled softly before walking up into the door. She took a deep breath to draw strength before carefully opening the door and walking inside. The office wasn't too different from the last time she'd seen it. There was still his desk, with books lining the walls of many books stacked on top of each other around the office as if recently read. One book lay open on the desk as though it was currently in the middle of being read. There behind the desk, looking up with her with tired eyes, was the familiar amber coat and dark red mane of her father. He looked up at her, almost as if in disbelief that she was actually there, standing before him after all these years. "Hello, Father. It's me, Fluttershy," Fluttershy said as nicely as she could. So you're here." There's a little soft sigh, moving out from behind his desk and walking up to get a better look at her. "You've certainly grown a lot since the last time I saw you." He looked at her up and down, scanning her. "You resemble your mother so much now." Her father turned his head away from her, closing his eyes. "Why are you here?" I came to talk." Fluttershy spoke softly. "About what happened between us." "What is there to say? You killed your mother, and I hurt you because of it." He said the words coldly, as if he didn't care to say them, let alone think them. You remember all of that, don't you? What's there to say? I guess I came to apologize. Fluttershy smiled a soft, sad smile. Apologize? Flutter said, looking almost confused as he turned to his daughter. I'm sorry I killed Mom. Fluttershy lowered her head softly. I can never take back what I've done, and no amount of apologies will bring her back. But I did kill her, and I'm so sorry. There was a silence in the room. Fluttershy could feel the cold stare of their father as he looked at her as if trying to figure out what was going on. Are you trying to seek redemption now? He finally spoke up in his cold voice. Trying to make up for what you did so long ago. After all these years, you come back for this? Anger was starting to rise in the back of his voice. I guess that's not all, Fluttershy admitted, lifting up her head and smiling. I also came to let you know that I forgive you as well. This seemed to stop the older stallion where he stood. You punished me for what I did to Mother, and I still feel that it was a worthy punishment. I did a terrible thing, so it's only benefiting that I had a fitting punishment. And I couldn't hold any anger for what you did to me. In fact, I was able to find a wonderful life thanks to what you did. I have so many friends who love me so much now. I take care of the animals in Ponyville, you know. I put knowledge of what I've learned in your magical books to use. Fluttershy smiled happily as she thought of her life back in Ponyville. I was even able to find love in Ponyville. I didn't know where it was going to head, but it's a journey. I'm going to enjoy it all the way. And I wouldn't have met my love if you hadn't done what you did. And I owe everything to you, my life, and everything to you, Father. And I want to thank you. Fluttershy gave a small bow. Thank you for everything. Lance just stared at his daughter. He could still remember the night his wife was taken from him, the monster that had ended his wife's life. He remembered how much pain and suffering he had inflicted on that monster, how after that he had put so much work into studying medicine and practicing his craft so that he could save any pony, regardless of their condition or disease. But now that monster was bowing before him, thanking him for everything that had happened in her life, apologizing for taking the mare that had brought him the greatest amount of happiness he had ever known. He grit his teeth and felt anger swelling inside of him. He stared at her with maddening intent. He saw her slowly lift her head to look at him with a smile. That smile, it felt like it was digging into his very, very soul. He took a step forward, as if he took a deep breath out of his nose, raising his hoof to the air. He wanted to strike her. He wanted to make her hurt more. He wanted her to know that what happened still tore his soul apart as he looked into the face of every patient he had ever saved. Fluttershy smiled softly, looking at her father. She closed her eyes, ready to be struck. She would take any punishment he had seemed benefiting for her as she had always had. It was the only thing she could do to make amends for their past, for having ever taken the mother out of this world. She waited for the blow, expecting it to come, but the strike never came. Instead, what Fluttershy felt next surprised her. Her father gently placed his hoof down onto her back, drawing her into a close embrace. Wrapping his hooves around her, she blinked in surprise. When she felt him start to shake, she wasn't sure how to react, but when she suddenly felt something cool and wet hit her back, he was crying. Her father was crying as he embraced her. Fluttershy couldn't help herself. She moved her hooves up around her father and hugged him back, closing her eyes as she let him cry into her as he needed. The two of them stood there in that embrace for what seemed like an eternity, with what her father finally broke away from it, rubbing his face as he turned away from his daughter. Fluttershy, he finally said after clearing his throat. Yes? She asked curiously. I think it's best if we never see each other again. He murmured quietly. Please, don't ever come visit me again. Alright, I understand. Fluttershy slowly nodded her head. Just know that I love you, Dad. I love you too, he choked out. Now get out of my office. Fluttershy didn't need to be told twice. She gave one last bow before moving to his door and opening it, heading out. Well, that was a quick visit, Softcure said, looking at Fluttershy curiously. Fluttershy's emerge was the only thing that stopped the constant glare battle between Softcure and Rainbow Dash. Yes, but don't worry, Miss Cure, you won't be seeing me ever again. Fluttershy smiled to her nurse. What, really? You're not going to smear his name? The nurse said, surprised. Miss Cure, I understand now. You did what you did because you didn't want anything bad to happen to my father. If something had happened, he couldn't save all the lives he had saved over the last few years." Fluttershy smiled. The soft coat just turned her head, as though almost she was being stabbed by Fluttershy's words. "I don't blame you. He saved so many lives. The one he's hurt seems insignificant in comparison." Fluttershy chuckled softly. "Get on with it," Softcoat growled. "I'm sorry, I just needed to say it." Fluttershy smiled. "Please have a wonderful life, and look after my father." Fluttershy gave a bow before walking off. "Fluttershy," Rainbow Dash said after a while. "What the hey was that all about?" "I guess I can explain it to you now, Dash." Fluttershy smiled happily. "But let's go somewhere more private first." Rainbow and Fluttershy landed on top of a hill in the middle of a large field that expanded far out onto the horizon. One could see the mountains in the distance and the flowers blooming in the field below. It was a beautiful sight, one that was tranquil, one without another pony to be seen. "This seems like a good place." Fluttershy smiled as she laid herself down, turning to look at the nearby forest. "You know, over there is where I fell from Cloudsdale and learned my special talent of taking care of animals." She gave a soft chuckle. "Huh, it is, isn't it?" Rainbow Dash sat next to Fluttershy looking at the forest. The sight did bring back memories, but that's not what she was concerned about at the moment. "Okay, Fluttershy, will you tell me now that we're alone? The nurse was glaring daggers at you and I didn't like it one bit. Also, why did you see in at Ponyville that warranted the trip to Cloudsdale?" Rainbow quickly asked, warranting answers. Fluttershy could only offer a sad smile as she felt the wind blow through her mane. She closed her eyes and began to speak. "I suppose you know my mother died of a disease, right? I suppose you know my mother died of a disease, yeah?" Fluttershy asked, just wanting to double check what Rainbow knew. Yeah, I was doing to remember it. It was big news one day, and of course every time I heard ponies talking about him, they almost mentioned how tragically he lost his wife and made him want to become an even better doctor," Rainbow explained clearly. "Well then, here's the truth, Rainbow Dash. My mother didn't die of her disease." Rainbow looked at her curiously. "It's true that she was sick with a disease which had no cure, and it likely would have killed her eventually, but that's not what killed her. You see, I killed her. I killed my own mother, Dash." Rainbow Dash's mouth fell open once more as she stared at Fluttershy. Fluttershy wasn't even looking at her. She was just staring out into the field with a soft, sad smile. Any question of doubt that ran through her head was hit by that sad look. She wasn't lying. Fluttershy had done what she had said. But why? Why would you? Rainbow stuttered, trying to process it. What would drive you into the kindest pony ever to kill your mother? "She asked me to." Fluttershy replied slowly. What? Rainbow asked in shock once more. "You mean your mother asked her young daughter to kill her?" Fluttershy asked, Rainbow asked, and Fluttershy just slowly nodded her head. "Fluttershy, that doesn't make you the killer here." Rainbow stomped her hoof. "You were too young to know the difference. If she made you kill her, then you had no ability to stop yourself. You didn't kill your mother. But I did kill her, Rainbow Dash." Fluttershy closed her eyes. "Even if she told me to, and as a child I had to listen to her, I still had enough sense in me to know that what I was doing was wrong, that I didn't feel right, that I chose not want to disappoint my mother. I took the knife she gave me and I stabbed her repeatedly. No matter how you look at it, the motives or the reasons, my mother died because I stabbed her multiple times. If I hadn't had that knife, if I hadn't moved my legs in that stabbing motion, if I hadn't listened to her, then there would be a chance that she'd still be alive today." Fluttershy's smile stayed on her face, that sad smile that she was forcing herself to be okay with everything she said. "I'm simply a monster, Rainbow Dash." "No!" Rainbow Dash shouted, stomping the ground before grabbing Fluttershy by the shoulders, much to her surprise, and turned the sad-looking Pegasus to her face. "You're not a monster! Your mother forced you to do that, Fluttershy. As the most gentle pony of all of Equestria, you're not capable of murder unless you didn't know what you were doing. You're not a monster." Rainbow breathed heavily as she grunted. Fluttershy looked in shock at the moment before smiling gently. She was so happy that Rainbow cared for her so deeply, despite having admitted monstrous truths to her. She could feel tears burning at the edge of her eyes, but she held them back as she closed her eyes. Well, my father told me I was. This seemed to shut Rainbow Dash up as she stared at Fluttershy in shock. He didn't just tell me I was a monster, he punished me as the monster I was. After all, you don't argue with the best doctor in all of Cloudsdale. He knows what's best for you. I don't have any scars because he knew what he was doing. But I visited the hospital so often because of his punishments. Fluttershy let out a small laugh, but she apparently found that statement to be funny. That's where Nurse Softcure comes in. She was my father's head nurse. When I came in for one of my accidents, she was the one who helped me. However, she was loyal to my father. If I tried to tell her that my father was the one who had been doing all this to me, she'd only hurt me in return, forcing me to never speak up those words that said that my father was a horrible person. And I understand now. She was protecting the people my father was caring for. I remember passing his room's patients one day. At the time, he was attending to a cancer patient who all the other doctors said that she had no chance of healing her. My father said she wasn't going to give up on her until the very end. Another patient had needed complicated organ replacements. The other surgeons were too afraid to perform because one wrong move would kill her. But my father took it upon himself and saved her life. Tears were beginning to flow down Fluttershy's cheeks as she spoke of the deeds and her father's accomplishments. There was a little filly with a weakened immune system. She had given up on life and was dying when my father gave her hope that she hadn't had before. She made a full recovery. There was a time when she was able to help my mother, who was going to kill a baby in labor, because he was there and knew what to do. The baby came out as healthy as it could be. Rainbow could say nothing. She was staring at the crying man before her as she poured out her heart about her father. These were all the patients I saw with my own eyes, Rainbow Dash. I saw him smile and laugh and help them all, even after I killed my mother. He never showed one sign of sorrow then. So, what else can I be but a monster, Rainbow Dash? I deserved everything that happened to me. I did the unforgivable and killed my mother. Fluttershy closed her eyes and giving a small laugh as tears continued to stream down her face. No, 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 no! Rainbow Dash began to scream as she lowered her head. Fluttershy! When she looked back at her in surprise, Rainbow Dash began to shake as she felt tears burning at the edge of her eyes. Again, Fluttershy, you are not a monster! Rainbow Dash looked straight into Fluttershy's water-filled cyan eyes. Even if it is true, even if you did kill your mother for Pony's sake, that doesn't make you a monster. You can never hurt a fly unless you're given no other choice, no other option. And that still doesn't make you a monster. You can never... You are totally not a monster. Unless you're backwards to the wall, you'd never do anything to harm another living being. So stop saying you are. The tears ran down Rainbow Dash's cheeks unhindered now. Stop speaking like you're some kind of horrible pony that deserves to be punished, when you're not. When you're the nicest, gentlest, kindest pony who ever lived. Rainbow's shoulders shook as she spoke. Rainbow Dash. Fluttershy muttered quietly, looking up through her sorrowful eyes. The two sat on the grassy hill, looking into each other's eyes as they sat there crying. There were no words that had been said at that moment. Just a bond between two mares set up. As the sun began to set in the horizon, the two breathless mares shared a deep kiss on the hill. Each mare could feel the passion that radiated from each other's through the kiss. It wasn't just a kiss out of longing lust, or a simple understanding or care. It was a kiss out of deep love, a love that rooted in their hearts. A night sky that began to come visible as the two finally broke apart the kiss. Fluttershy nestling herself in Rainbow's coat. Thank you, Rainbow Dash, Fluttershy said quietly. Rainbow Dash just smiled at her mare friend, patting her coat softly. The two stayed that way for a short while. It was until Fluttershy broke the silence between them. We're not done yet, though, she said softly. Huh? Rainbow asked curiously as Fluttershy sat up. This time, we need to talk about you. Fluttershy wiped her face as she smiled. About your dream to become a Wonderbolt. Oh, Rainbow Dash grimaced, not wanting to have brought the topic up just yet. She looked at Fluttershy, who was smiling at her, then up to the sky and then to the ground, and then gritted her teeth as she closed her eyes. I want you to try out for the Wonderbolts. Fluttershy smiled happily. Huh? Rainbow Dash blinked in confusion. That I told you before, if I join the Wonderbolts, I'll be abandoning my friends, the ponies I care about. Rainbow Dash felt like she was shrinking as she spoke. Dad, I'd be abandoning you. I've been thinking about it despite my own thoughts. Fluttershy smiled. And there's a 1-year training program, right? Well, as far as I know, they're not allowed to keep you away forever. By law, they must give you your opportunities for rest, breaks from working. You get sick days, vacation days, rest days, holidays, and even once you're part of the main flight team, they don't do shows during the winter, and not every team member flies during every show. And that downtime you can spend with us. Rainbow Dash blinked. How do you know all this? Rainbow said, flabbergasted at Fluttershy's level of knowledge at the Wonderbolts. Fluttershy could only laugh. I've been listening to you rant about them ever since we were fillies, Rainbow Dash. Most of what you said about them, I just took important details from each rant and brought them together. Fluttershy nodded slowly. Just because you'll be gone for a while doesn't mean you won't be abandoning your friends, your home, or your friends. Especially, you won't be abandoning me. I hadn't thought of it like that, Rainbow said, thinking it all over in her head now. In that other Ponyville, it had been presenting to her in such a black and white way that she couldn't help feel what she was shown was true. But here Fluttershy was mixing that black and white line, causing it to be all ambiguous grey blur. You're right, Fluttershy. You're absolutely right. Rainbow Dash said as her enthusiastic grin came back to her face. Yes! She cried out, jumping into the air, doing a flip and pumping her hooves into the air. The dream is alive! I'm going to become a Wonderbolt! Rainbow cheered. That's wonderful, Dash! Fluttershy laughed happily, watching Dash. I've come up with my own dream too. One that I want to make come true very, very soon. Oh, what's your dream, Fluttershy? Rainbow Dash flew down to Fluttershy, smiling happily. I've decided that I'm going to become a mother, Fluttershy explained. Rainbow Dash's wings stopped moving as she fell to the ground before Fluttershy. But what? I can't give you a child! Rainbow Dash cried out in panic. Fluttershy couldn't help but laugh. I mean, I'd like to adopt a little filly or a colt of my own. Fluttershy explained more clearly. Oh! Rainbow Dash sat up and is standing now. I don't know, Fluttershy. A foal is a lot of work. A lot more than trying not to be a Wonderbolt. Plus, with me being your mere friend, you know I'd have to help take care of it. Rainbow rubbed the back of her head and thought, I don't know if I'm ready for that kind of responsibility. It's okay, Dash. I wouldn't ask you to do anything you're not comfortable with. Fluttershy smiled happily. Ugh, you have a way of twisting my heart. Rainbow put her hoof to her face before smiling. That if a foal is what you want, then I can't do anything to say but go for it. But let's just consider our options first. Options? Fluttershy blinked, tilting her head a little. You know, we could, Rainbow Dash thought of what she was saying. Well, I would say we could ask Twilight about, pregnancy slots for 2 mares, but I think that I'd want to avoid Twilight's balls for a little while. Rainbow grimaced. Fluttershy couldn't help but laugh at this as well. It's okay. Whether it's from you or from some pony else, all I know is that I want to give a little filly or a colt a wonderful foalhood, one that I didn't have growing up. Fluttershy nodded against Rainbow Dash again. I know. Rainbow let herself chuckle as she embraced her mare friend. Hey, it's getting late. We should probably head back to Ponyville, Rainbow said, as a cool breeze blew through her mane, reminding her of the time. Alright, let's go, said Rainbow. Yeah, said Fluttershy, with a smile on her face. The two of them soon took off from the hill, flying back to Ponyville, hoof in hoof, together. Okay guys, that's the end of the season of Silent Ponyville 2. And in my next video I'm going to be doing Forever Faithful. And I'm going to add my own ending, considering I'll tell you when I'm going to be doing the ending bit. And then I'm going to start doing the story, and then I'll read you my ending. Because the ending of Forever Faithful, I've listened to it a few times and I've read over the story. The ending is really, really, it's not really something that you'd want to end with, because it gives so many questions unanswered. So I decided to write my own little ending about it, and I've actually commented it on Obub Scribblers, reading A Throw the Fateful, if you want to check it out. It should be in the comment section somewhere, but I don't know if it'll be the first thing up there, but if you want to scroll through, that's cool. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this series. I'm really sorry this last video has been a bit of bad quality. I've recorded 2 videos in one right now, and I'm kind of tired and my voice is kind of scratchy. I hope you enjoyed the series. Stay cool, guys. Until the next reading. Bye.